Wow, this is the busiest this room's been all day. I'm guessing you guys are Star Wars fans then? No? Alright, fair enough. Okay, well, welcome everyone to the Star Wars panel for today. I am joined by John Chapman and Mark Everex Collett. I will let them introduce themselves and and what their experience was of Star Wars and what you guys did in it.
Oh, that's a bit easy, isn't it?
It's very easy.
We got to do it all. Hi, everyone. Are you having a good time? Yeah. I think this is a great convention, actually. The Didcot, and this is their first one, by the way. And I think Nicola and all her team have done really well here. Actually, it's been great. Nice venue. So I feel really privileged to be here. So my role in Star Wars was I was just a background artist in one of the scenes called. This was the actual scene. Actually, this was in the briefing room. Most people recognise that. Yeah. It was really hot in 1976, and all of that scene there was made out of sort of perspex and plastic. So one of my sense memories of that film was that smell of perspex and plastics, actually. So I feel really privileged to be part of Star Wars. I was on set 5 days. That was one of the scenes I was in, and the other one was the ceremonial entrance at the end of that film. And what an iconic film that is, and where it's led to now, which Mark's in the latest one, of course, which he'll tell you about. So, and I'm also here today to sort of really to promote Johnny Rocket. Johnny Rocket is a children's character I created a few years ago. Johnny's got a magic bike that morphs into a rocket. The first one is aimed at sort of what we call Key Stage 1. It's done in comic style. So I do quite a lot of primary school work with that character. And the great thing about comics is that you can actually take those in primary schools now, where in my day you couldn't. So for any sort of reluctant readers, teachers really welcome that sort of process of starting to read through a comic. And then I age the character up to appeal to Key Stage 2, which is 7 to 11. So the stories have got a lot more layers. But every one of the stories, what I tried to incorporate within the story was a sort of educational, moral, or a spiritual message that's mind, body and soul. So Johnny's really non-confrontational. It's all about giving confidence and self-belief to young people. My plan is to do 12 in the series, and I would really like to get it animated for TV. And of course you would, that'd be awesome. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool, and Mark?
I'll pass you over to Mark, who's been in the latest movie.
So I'm Mark, and obviously me and John are arch enemies because I played a TIE Fighter pilot in The Force Awakens. I was in the film in total for about a week. I was in the hangar scene, so a lot of running around the TIE Fighter hangar. And then on the 8th of September, I got really lucky and I got to fly a TIE Fighter. So I watched the filming of the gun turret with John B. Yeager in, and then got the opportunity to chase him wearing all various different helmets, which was probably one of the best days of my life, to be honest, because I was a Star Wars fan since the age of 1.
Okay, so I guess if we go to John first, and when you were first approached to be a background actor in Star Wars, did you have any idea of the scale of what it was that you were involved in?
Well, absolutely none, no. In actual fact, I never knew the full story of Star Wars. And we were told that it was for TV, so we really didn't have that sort of, that imagination of what it ended up being. But we did sense the sort of magic of what was sort of happening on set. There was a lot of camaraderie. It was really good fun. Because if you get into, on a film set now, there's so much politics, which, you can't actually get near the director or the producer. But in those days, you could actually get near George and say, what's that scene we're sort of setting up. So it was great. It was great from that perspective. But what a story with Lucas. Really amazing, isn't it?
And so for Mark, for you, obviously there was a massive gap between the original trilogy, then the prequel trilogy, and then they decided to carry on and make the next 3, not under the leadership of Lucas, but still kind of carrying on the story. How was it for you knowing that you were going to be kind of entering into that universe?
Oh, well, it was quite different really, because everybody obviously knew it was an amazing film. Most of the people on the set seemed to, at least know what Star Wars is about, and there was a huge amount of fans who just wanted to be there. So there was an incredibly exciting atmosphere. You knew you were part of something big. It was a really friendly atmosphere. Everybody was very committed, but at the same time professional. I suppose the politics, it wasn't so close. So where you had the bigger actors and J.J. Abrams, they would talk to their assistant directors who would talk to you, but that wasn't a negative thing. That was just because of the professionalism of the scenes that we were in.
I guess with the kind of filming experience, did they kind of approach you with direction of kind of, you know, how to fly the TIE fighter, or did you just have to just sit there and go, I'm flying the TIE fighter, this is so cool?
So the unit director was a guy called Robert Guyett, who works for Industrial Light and Magic, and that was quite a different experience because it's a small team. He spoke before, obviously, we started filming. He asked me if I knew what TIE fighter pilots did, and I said, well, they look like they're chalking a snooker cue or undoing a drinks bottle when targeting. So it's like, yeah, that's it. And then we watched the original scenes with the TIE fighter pilots in, and just had a discussion of how we're going to do it. Then I sat in the TIE fighter. Really happy to see they had this little twiddly knob that I could use as targeting, because, you know, that's what it's all about, really. And and then we just shot the scene. So he described the scene to me. So I'd watched John Boyega doing the scene from the turret, so I kind of knew what was happening. So he described it: you're in daylight, you're chasing the Millennium Falcon, shooting at it, go into a Super Star Destroyer, you get blown up. So then there was about 4 different helmets that included one with the red stripes, there was one with writing over the top, there's various other symbols, and a pure black helmet. So we just went through the scene several times, taking a couple of different shots, wearing the different helmets. That lasted for about an hour and a half in total. The whole time I was just thinking, just remember this, it's probably one of the best times you're ever going to have.
So what's it like being in the full TIE fighter uniform, the TIE fighter pilot uniform?
Hot. No, hot.
So they've not changed then?
Yeah.
What was your experience of getting on the outfits? Because obviously the X-wing pilot outfits.
Yeah, well, these suits were sort of nylon, you know, so it was extremely hot, as I mentioned earlier, the summer of '76. But we were actually kicking those around. We could change those 2 or 3 times a day, so there was a huge heat in the corner. You know, quite frankly, you could have asked to take a couple of those away with you if you wanted, because I think it was more work for them to sort of come clean them all, quite frankly. But yeah, no, so it's extremely hot, so they've not changed since your day.
Again, similarly, were you given much direction in kind of what you had to do while you were in the scene, or were you just left to pretty much to your own devices to interpret?
Yeah, no, we were just, basically, we were given, you know, we did a run through with that, so we got to grips with what was actually happening. I mean, in those days, background artists, you know, they were all professional guys. They were doing this for a full-time living. So, and when I went to the agency where I got the part, they asked me to sort of do a bit of acting. So they gave me the opportunity to do that. But I think now, you know, if you can just get on the list, you can be a background artist. But in that day, it was a lot tighter. But I think, you know, it's really important because I'm in a film called Elstree 1966.
I was just going to come to this, yeah.
They talk a lot about the politics on film sets with background artists, or film extras, as they were called in my day. And I think they're a really important part of the role. You know, it's all about setting scenes. But some A-listers within Star Wars think it's really bad that we do these conventions, you know, but you know, it's all about money and politics. Quite frankly, if background artists weren't needed, directors wouldn't go out and employ them. I think they're an important part of it.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know about the film, it's called Elstree 1976, and it's a documentary about the making of, well, kind of the making of Episode 4 and the journeys of a few of the background artists, such as John.
Well, it still had some big names in it.
Very much so.
Dave Prowse was in it, obviously, who played Darth Vader. But the documentary is of 10 people that experienced that first film and the effects that it's had on one's life. You know, because it's a phenomenal film. You know, in terms of quality of film, I'm not a big fan of it. I've only seen it a couple of times. You know, my all-time sci-fi movie is Blade Runner. I think that's incredible. You know, and Rutger Hauer actually stole that movie. I mean, it's incredible. But what happened with Star Wars is it left an imprint of time on people's minds. You know, you got cast back to that period because it was so phenomenally successful. And one of the reasons it was is through merchandising. So everyone just kept that film alive. And you see Star Wars fans now, you know, they're introducing their children to Star Wars. Someone told me 6 months ago that 20% of the world's population know and have seen Star Wars. That's incredible. You know, you're talking a couple of billion people there. Phenomenal. And with Disney, of course, paying $3.4 billion for the franchise, I have no idea where they're going to be taking it in the next 12, 15 years. It just, they must have a catalogue of...
Well, yeah, I mean, from the look of it, they're releasing at least one film a year. So they've got a kind of Star Wars sequel movie, and then they've got like an offshoot prequel movie. So you've got Rogue One coming out at the end of this year, which I believe,
that's great.
yeah, I believe that's the story of how they got the plans to the original Death Star. So that's what that's revolving around. And then you've got the Han Solo origin story that's coming out, and a whole bunch of others. Okay, so I guess Mark. I guess the big question is are you going to be involved in future ones? Have you been approached? Have you approached them?
No, I'm not involved in Rogue One or any of the future ones. Obviously, I'd love to be if the opportunity came up. I've got a friend who's working on Rogue One, but not acting. But yeah, there's a huge amount of secrecy around.
I was going to ask you about this. Is kind of the secrecy that I mean, obviously you have to sign things like NDAs. I mean, how do they tell you about it? Is it like if we tell someone we will like come around and break your kneecaps?
It's subtler than that. But you do feel
really
that
in the movie industry.
you do get the impression that if you mention it, especially before the film came out, if you said anything to anyone, put anything on social media, you would be in an awful lot of trouble with Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you go about getting the role in the first place?
Well, I've been an extra before in other films, so with Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's mainly through my father, who loves the film industry. He's the person who took me to see Star Wars when I was 1 year old, just for an excuse to go and see it. And so he knew some people which we could send some photos in. I sent the photos in. Unlike John, you didn't have to be a particularly good actor to be a stormtrooper or a TIE fighter. You just had to fit in the costumes because they were pre-made. And very luckily, I fitted in a TIE fighter costume. So it's more about my measurement than my look.
So the aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper thing actually works?
It does, yeah.
Marvellous. Okay, John, so can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for Johnny Rocket? How you moved into writing from doing the background acting? What kind of led you in that direction?
Well, I've always been attracted to sort of film and TV and animation, and it was in, I don't know where it was now, it was about the year 2004, something like that. I came up with a character called Johnny Rocket, and he's got a magic bike that morphs into a rocket and goes on space adventures. But that came out really of a problem that I had at school because I'm so dyslexic, and I managed to keep under the radar. But the only thing that sort of kept me sane at my school was my bike and staring into the stars. So I actually put those two elements together and thought it would be a great idea to make it into a comic. So I employed the illustrators to illustrate my books because I was a big fan of Marvel stuff when I was a kid. You know, we used to do some role play at school, and my role play was Thor, and my mate was Spider-Man. So I just loved comics. But so because I suffered so badly in school, I wanted to create a character that had all those sort of issues within the book, learning objectives to try and help young people. So that's my mission. It's really been 12. Get him animated for TV so we can get some good stuff out of it. I'm absolutely really tired of the violence and aggression that we pump into young people's minds, because I think that's an effect, a long-term effect. And this planet for us now is just far too aggressive. Now there's just too much of it around now. So whether I can make a difference with this character, I sincerely hope so. He's like a superhero for primary school children, and we all want to be associated with a superhero, you know, respect moral values and save the world sort of thing. So that's how I came up with the idea.
I guess on that point, I mean, if you look at the original Star Wars trilogy, all of which were like U-rated films, and then the later ones have ended up being 12As or whatever, do you feel that they have gotten darker and they have gotten more violent and kind of less family-friendly than they were originally?
Well, I think they had to slightly get a little darker, just because the audience was growing up with them. You know, it was the demand from the fans, I think. You know, but no, I understand what you're trying to say. You know, where you can actually slot Star Wars, but it's great in one way because they've expanded the age, haven't they? A bit like what I've done now with Johnny Rocket aging him up. You know,
Yeah, cool. Okay, so I guess at this point I'm going to turn it over to the audience to ask you some questions. So, hands in the air. We'll go to the front now. My radio mic first.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming here for a start.
Thank you for inviting us.
My question is directed towards you. Would you say that your past jobs influenced you, for instance, your Star Wars job? Did that influence how you came across making your comics? Did that help the process at all?
No, I just feel it's really quite strange in some ways, you know, because as a child I had space and rockets in my mind, and then getting a role as an X-Wing pilot in Star Wars was phenomenal.
Star Wars is quite violent in a way, so it's quite a contrast between the two things.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is my creation. Star Wars is George Lucas' creation, you know, and I just wanted to keep to primary school and write for primary school. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your question, and for asking a question, you can have a pop-out pod racer. There you go. See, I've got Star Wars special tat to give away on this one.
Have you?
I have, yeah. I've had my box of goodies I've been giving stuff away from all day. Have another question from anyone? Down the front here. You're going to be getting all my stuff out of the box.
What are your first impressions on episode 1, 2 and 3?
I guess that's to both of you, impressions on 1, 2 and 3. Can of worms.
I'm not really too keen on the prequels, and I was really glad that they've done a lot better with the sequels. To be quite honest, I felt that Star Wars is really about kind of that night. It's more like cowboys in space. You know, there's a lot of action, whereas the prequels was a bit like politics in space for me, and I didn't really get it, to be quite honest.
Trade Federation, George, really? Oh, John?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, your thoughts, yeah.
No, I'm not a big fan. I mean, even the last film for me, I mean, I just couldn't quite get it. I think it was a fan-based film, quite frankly. They seemed to have just thrown everything into the pot. You know, none of it seemed to make sense to me. I mean, I like the effects of it, and I obviously went to see it. But you know, how can they lose the Millennium Falcon and Luke Skywalker lose his lightsaber, and then you've got Princess Leia in a tent? I mean, none of it made sense. And and Mark Hamill was obviously did loads of promotional work, and I was really quite amazed that he had about a 5-second scene at the end of that. That's he asked the wrong person.
I'm sure there will be more Mark Hamill in the next one.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Thank you very much. Have some stickers. Woo! And my thoughts, Jar Jar Binks, no, all wrong, all so wrong. Okay, another question? Yeah, down here, yeah.
So this is directed at both of you. Who was your favourite Star Wars character throughout all the films? And if you could play anyone else, who would it be?
Well, for me that's kind of obvious really, because it's Boba Fett. I think everybody loves Boba Fett. I did read that TIE Fighter pilots were like in the top 25 Star Wars bad guys, so it was good fun being a TIE Fighter. Now obviously I've become a bit obsessed with TIE Fighters, but TIE Fighter pilots seems being one, but yeah, it has to be Boba Fett. And also all the other bounty hunters that stood on the deck, because I as a kid I read a book, Bounty Hunter Tales, and that had things like Zuckuss and Forlum, which are two pretty cool bounty hunters which turn good in the book. So some of those more obscure characters I think I'm into.
Bosch, he was a good bounty
Bosch
hunter.
was amazing, yeah.
Well, I'm in touch with my feminine side, so I'd love to frame Princess Leia.
Awesome, and you sir can have more Star Wars stickers. Oh, loving the cosplay, very cool. Attack on Titan. Okay, and another question. Yeah, Jack.
Which one out of the two, Darth Vader or Kylo Ren?
Is that fan of or not a fan of? Fan of.
Fan.
Who's the baddest?
Oh.
Who'd win in a fight?
Very good with that.
Who's the baddest out of both of them? Who's the baddest? You. Okay. Well, I better go with him. Yeah.
I think Darth Vader's a classic, and I think he's probably like up there with the top evil characters of all time. But I think Kylo Ren's quite an interesting character because, if you think the modern evil in this world is often young people who've been manipulated and brainwashed by extremism. So he is that kind of character. So I think he's quite an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how that character develops.
Less tantrums. If he has less tantrums, I'll be happier in the next ones. There you go. You're going to have a pod racer. There we go. Okay, well, Attack on Titan.
Which side would you be on? Would you be on the light side or the dark side if you had a choice?
Well, it has to be on the light side, really, doesn't it?
There's children around.
Well, it's far too stressful. Being angry all the time, you've really got to do your head in.
But did anyone else notice that when they sold the light side and dark side DVDs, it was always the dark side ones that were sold?
Oh,
it was just shelves of light side.
It's far more cooler. You get to dress up in really cool costumes. So the dark side has its benefits.
Well, I played a Rebel, so I was on the light side, so I'd enjoy playing that again.
And more Star Wars stickers. I'm going to go to the back just for now. There's people have been putting their hands up back there, so I'm going to run to this gentleman here and give you the mic.
Which was your favourite Star Wars movie?
First one, I was in it.
Mine's Empire Strikes Back because it's just the darkest one. Doesn't end happily, and you see a lot of Boba Fett in it.
Hold on a minute, you want to be on the light side. Bit of a change, isn't it? Rather quick.
From a personal point of view, light side, but from a fantasy point of view, it's dark side every time, really.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Rogue One, actually. The trailer looks amazing. I'm actually really excited about that.
Cool. Star Wars stickers for you. Okay, and that way. Okay, can I just hand you here to the Joker?
This is directed towards you. Seeing as you were a TIE fighter pilot, do you have a favourite TIE fighter sort of variant ship, or sort of like the bomber and stuff like that?
Well, from a pragmatic point of view, I think I'd go for Starfighter TIE, so one of the advanced TIEs, just because you've got a warp drive and you've got shields, and it's got to be pretty comfortable because it's Darth Vader's. But as for those general ships, it's got to be a TIE Interceptor, I think, because I think they've got pretty cool wings, and they just look so sharp, they look fast. And I used to play the old TIE Fighter versus X-Wing game years ago.
Oh yeah.
The TIE Interceptor did have shields in that, and it had a hyperdrive, so I kind of think you could suit one up. And
I
TIE
think the TIE fighters are cooler than the X-Wings, actually. I do think that. I love the sound they make as well, I do.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Pod racer for you. Okay, and I believe Kylo Ren had a question.
So for the TIE Fighter pilot, did you steal a suit and does it still fit?
I would have loved to have stolen the suits. They're very careful about all those props. I think they're probably worth a fortune. I'd love to make one, to be quite honest. They look quite hard to make, and I think I'd get divorced if I spent all my time making one of those suits.
Okay, thank you very much, Kylo Ren. You can have some stickers too. Okay, I've got time for one more question. Oh, down here, yeah.
Round up the entire Star Wars storyline in 10 words.
One. Phenomenal.
That's one word.
Yeah. Can't think of the other 9. Mark led those.
Spaceship, droid, desert. Kid, Millennium Falcon. Stormtrooper. TIE Fighter.
Space.
X-Wing. The Force!
Audience participation, we love it.
Mine would be Skywalker's nearly destroy universe. That sucks. And there you go. I'm afraid yours has a Jar Jar Binks on it. I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you very much everyone for your questions, and thank you very much John and Mark for sharing your experience with us. Round of applause please, folks.